When I was in elementary school, I was a pretty carefree kid. Like most other energetic kiddos, appearance never really mattered to me.
For the most part, I would consider myself an introvert person who wants, who likes, and who looks forward to becoming an extrovert. In other words, I feel I do not know how to socialize like everyone else.
Things started to change around middle school. Little things that didn't matter before suddenly became magnified.
I often find myself in a situation where I don't know what to say, and then it's either too awkward to remain silent, or I force myself to say something. I'd soon be regretting for having said something stupid.
There were many days when, even if I felt fine in the morning, halfway through school I would feel so terrible about my appearance that I would call home sick just so people didn't have to see me.
To me, people seem to always have something to say about random topics, thus can hold a good conversation. Besides, when it comes to making friends with strangers, I'm totally shy.
I don't know what spurred this kind of anxiousness, but for the past few years of my life, it was pretty bad.
Even I know that no one really carries animosity, and if I be active and approach them first, as they're probably waiting for me to start talking to them first too, there would be no problem.
I recall one moment in particular that I was in the mall shopping with my aunt, and for some reason I just felt completely overwhelmed and, to be honest, gross.
Maybe others view me as apathetic or not caring to have them as friends, but most of the time that's just not true.
Right in the middle of the store, my breathing began to pick up rapidly, and I cried. Yep, in front of all these random people.
For people of my type, it's just a little hard to speak that first word, sparkle up a conversation. But I understand how people in fact do want to be your friend.
The worst part was that I felt like everyone was watching me. It's a weird feeling to describe, but it felt like at any time I glanced at someone, they were staring directly at me.
Personally, as I've become more and more familiar with this community as time passed, I gradually felt I became more open as I learned more and more about each individual and made more friends.
For a while, my concern with my appearance really took over my life. It wasn't until I confided in my parents how much I didn't like myself that things began to change for the better.
Although I am no longer afraid of people in this school, I can make myself home with some people in this community. I think I'd go through similar transitions again if I were to be put somewhere else now.
It is at our deepest points that we feel most overwhelmed and in a state of constant uncertainty as to whether or not our problems will be resolved or if hope could be found.
I honestly believe having some solid friends, even if it's just one or two, to help encourage you to go out and be more social is really important.
Being an introvert, I live the majority of my life in solitude and don't mind it. I guess it is part of my strategy to avoid conflict or the pain of dealing with it.
After finally addressing my problem, I found that being in a group of close friends made it a lot easier to block out any insecurities in my head and just focus on the amazing people I had around me. Furthermore, depending on my family and even professional help is definitely a big help.
I told myself that I was doing just fine and that I needed to conceal and not feel, so the pain and trouble would recede. This only sent my falling down deeper into the hole I had created for myself.
Of course, things like this don't go away in a second. It's gradual. I still, even at this point, have really bad days, and it often makes it hard for me to go out.
I was reminded of simple truth. Besides all the comfort and assurance I was chasing in the world, the greatest and most useful of these had always been right with me, Jesus.
However, knowing that I have support around me and recognizing that things can really change for the better is what encourages me to keep living life to its fullest.
I remembered that I was not alone physically, but also in my experiences, for Jesus had lived them all before. He came down to earth and got the full package deal of humanity. Not only that, but he also died on the cross and rose again, so I could be victorious over no matter what was coming my way. I started to hold on to that, surrounded myself with a group of loving and caring friends, and I'm back on track towards a life in freedom.